This is Cybert signing in to Red Alert 3 on the map Infinity Isle, and welcome back to the Gathering Storm. We're still in the BattleNet Qualifier Round 2, also known as the Round of 32, here in the upper bracket. On the left side, rocking the Soviets, this is Harlan. And on the other side, as the Green Allies, give it up for CXK, also known as Geneva, who we got to see both of these players in round 1, the round of 64, which big shout out to the admins and the referees of the BattleNet Qualifier, because I didn't run any of it. I didn't have to deal with any of it. They did it all. Lianyi, Turs, Jukalitter, a couple of other folks as well. I'm sorry for pronouncing all of your names wrong, but a huge shout out to them for managing all of the players, a couple of the no-shows, people who signed up and then didn't really participate, handling all of that, coordinating all of the games. Absolutely massive shout out to them. It was a ton of games with the double elimination format, with the best of 5 minimums. All series were either best of 5, and then later on they get into the best of 7s. So a huge shout out to them over there. And of course, big thanks to Tim and Media Storm for sponsoring the whole event, providing the prize pool, providing all of the funding. And of course, there is also some there is some Gathering Storm merch available as well. For the first time ever, doing some custom merch, partnering with Bricky's organization, Orchid 8, to do some very simple merch, just special edition stuff for the event. A couple of shirts, coffee cups. We have one priced as low as we possibly can as these Vindicators are coming in. Bullfrog's going to be able to snipe one of them. Second one takes some heavy damage, but still survives. This is going to be a tough push to hold off from, unless Harlan just decides to hit the brakes and do nothing else after this. Then the attack might actually be pretty easy to hold off. But a third refinery up and running. The bear was not able to block it, but he will be camping out there and keeping an eye on everything. Bullfrog's gonna pull around just in time. They snipe one of the Vindicators, so all 3 of the Bullfrogs actually survive. And there's the GG that comes out as CXK drops game number 1, and Harlan gets the first win of this best of 5. CXK was able to beat Arling in that first round of the event, but Harlan is like very few other players. There are not a lot of folks who can match Harlan, and as we see that early aggression, a bit of a divergence from what we saw from Harlan in round number 1. He was playing much slower of a get big eco, roll the snowball, and then it just doesn't stop in that previous round. But here, he went all-out aggression. He was planning on his opponent going airfield first, and those early Bullfrogs, the early War Factory that we're seeing yet again, are also playing into that. Is he going to go for the same kind of really aggressive opening that he went for in the last game? Flak Cannon is out. Bullfrog can be timed so that both of them pop out at the same moment. And of course, on Epicenter Island, there's lots of buildings in the middle. So the Flak Cannon does finish. He doesn't do the pause thing where you hold it at 99% and then you cancel it once a couple of Bullfrogs are out. But he does keep it around. Conscript also here, and he sells it off basically immediately. Okay, so he got out his 1 Bullfrog, he got out his 2nd Bullfrog, and then he felt safe enough to call it quits. Yeah, CXK having a tight series with Arling there in the first round. Vindicator's going to be able to knock down that bear, open up a 3rd refinery location for CXK, aka Geneva, there on the left side. And this fast airfield, it hasn't accomplished anything yet. But if a 3rd refinery comes up, then we could also be seeing a tier 2 follow this up, and cryocopters make their way out onto the field. But he is going to have to survive. He has had to cut the barracks. He has had to trim out the oil derrick. So he is down a little bit of income. The faster 3rd refinery will help offset that, but it's not even that much faster than Harlan, as Harlan has his own 3rd refinery underway. It's not completed just yet, but it is there coming along quite nicely. Triple Bullfrog here. No sickle with this version of the build. It looks like Harlan trimmed that out to get the third refinery. Vindicator goes down, but the other Vindicators will find their targets. One Bullfrog goes down. There's the second. Can he clip the wings? Yes, he can. That's 3 Bullfrogs for 3 Vindicators. The Soviet player is loving that trade. They'll take that any day of the week. Freezes the Harvester in place. It's 3 Harvesters versus 3. Oops, you just got 2 that are actually working, and Harlan has an oil derrick on top of that. He gets the kill on the Harvester. It doesn't get restarted immediately, so at the very least, CXK was late in getting that Harvester rebuilt, and now the super reactor is up. The control is just basically perfect here from Harlan, and you do have to wonder if the airfield first was the right call from CXK. He's gotten a little bit done with it, but not in comparison to where Harlan is. He's got that nice 1K per minute army or income advantage. Of course, once that third Harvester comes back online, it'll kind of fix those averages a little bit. And we should have a barracks up. Okay, yeah, the barracks is here. Engineer, I have to assume, is going to be the first thing out to grab that oil derrick and even things up. Harlan moving on to his 4th refinery there. And as you can see, the 5th refinery is way down in the other corner. Well, not quite the corner, but down on the south side of the water. Vindicators roaming around the middle. If I have a moment... What I was going to say is one of the things that I wanted to do with the merch drop is make sure that we had one t-shirt that was as cheap as possible. So we do have a $20 t-shirt, which is, I mean, for a lot of custom merch from influencers, that is crazy cheap compared to what a lot of them do for essentially the same thing. But I remember being in college, having events that I wanted to support, or people that I wanted to support, projects they were working on, and then the t-shirts would come out and it's like $35 or $45 or something. It's like, look, I don't have $45 to spend on a t-shirt. So we wanted to bring one t-shirt out that could be basically as cheap as possible. So we've got a regular t-shirt, and then we've got a more premium t-shirt as well. Designs are slightly different, but again, as I said, it's all very simple stuff. It's all very straightforward. What you would expect there. Design, of course, all done by Drive. Vindicators coming forward. Going to be able to get a couple of shots off. No, they back off, and the Javs are just left on their own. On the front line, Vindicators coming back in. They will be able to get one of the hammer tanks, one of the bullfrogs as well. The other bullfrogs diving deep to get the kill, and the Air Force has been cut down, smashed to pieces as Twin Blade moves over top of this Harvester and will be guarded against any Apollos by those bullfrogs as well. Get the kill, get out, seems to be the aim of these Twin Blades as they're going to try to escape from this IFV. Nice to go for the War Factory there for CXK, and the airfield opener wasn't great, but it hasn't ended yet. 5th refinery potentially coming up here for Harlan. He is playing this one out a little bit slower. Maybe satellite drop getting called in there on a power plant. Low power mode for the current moment for CXK. As he goes up to tier 2, he gets himself somewhat stabilized, but losing his entire Air Force like 2 times in this game in the first 6 minutes, having lost basically everything that was in the sky, and now losing 4 Javelin soldiers for nothing, truly for nothing. Bit of a disaster there for CXK, and it wouldn't be a disaster if the income wasn't just slowly and surely being more and more in favor of Harlan. Doesn't even get any shots off because both of the Javs were in laser lock mode as the GG comes out and CXK drops game number 2. Harlan puts his next point on the board and moves to match point of this opening best of 5. And if that was his A game, then CXK is going to have to step it up because Harlan is looking good in this series on this day. No more mistakes for CXK as Harlan is now at match point in this best of 5. Early rounds of the tournament can be a bit punishing when you go up against a player like Harlan, and he gets the roar on both of them. The bark didn't have a neutralizing effect at all. Oh man, this is it shouldn't delay anything. The engineer should be able to get inside of that oil derrick. Okay. We're now looking all right. No airfield first opening this time from CXK. He went for the dogs. He went for the barracks. He is going to have that bit of map presence, that bit of map awareness here on Temple Prime Reloaded. And he is going, it looks like, double refinery. There we go. So delaying the airfield, quote-unquote, to a relatively normal time. War Factory after 2 refineries here from Harlan as well. So not the fastest War Factory possible. Both players happy to play it out with a little bit of eco, a little bit faster in game number 3. Building will be grabbed and even gets the roar off again. 2 more peacekeepers cleaned up without any mistakes. CXK is going to have to step it up big time. Not 1 game, not 2 games, but 3 games in a row. And that is going to be difficult to do, but he is up for it. And if he's not, then, well, we'll move on, and we'll get to see him potentially in the lower bracket. Harlan, again, one of the favorites, and as always, when you're going up against Harlan or Zugspitze, Demon, Green Alert, Dutch Army, some of these guys who are expected to be in that final 8, you have to be thinking, how are you going to knock them off of what they're expecting? How are you going to be able to take games from them? Some players, they head in and they just want to play stock standard as straight down the middle as they can. They're like, this is what I know. And if you're not normally beating them with that, then you shouldn't expect to beat them with that on any given Sunday. But if you haven't practiced it really well, it's hard to pull out a trick play out of nowhere, again, if you haven't practiced it really well. Refineries getting scouted out, the potential refinery locations. Harlan is seeking them out to see what this allied player may or may not be doing. The bear is camping on that location. Vindicators getting their wings clipped. A couple of bullfrogs going down. The Vindicators as well getting eliminated. Fresh Vindicator out there onto the front line as the Sickle trades out with these Peacekeepers. Finally, a couple of bears going down as the Sickle looking to open up an attack path. Can he jump inside with that Harvester? He's just spending all of his time shooting that Peacekeeper shield. The Vindicator cleans out the bear so the expansion can come up. 3 Vindicators now moving back on out. There are 2 Bullfrogs here, not 3, so the Vindicators can get some kills if they want. Bullfrogs spacing the Vindicators as well as they possibly can. And there's the last bomb to save the Vindicator and kill the Bullfrog. CXK handling this as well as he can, but he still ends up losing a Harvester, and that will continue to give Harlan the economic advantage. Faster 3rd refinery for Harlan. Faster 4th refinery from Harlan, although it's only 80% complete. And down 1 Harvester for the current moment for CXK. 3 refineries, only 2 of them working. And as he gets his 3rd Harvester back online, guess what? Harlan has got his 4th online. And that will bring that economy graph very handily into Harlan's favor, at least for the current moment. CXK, we haven't seen a lot of Cryocopter play from him. He did go tier 2 in the last game, but I'm not sure that he produced any tier 2 units. There were IFVs, there were Vindicators, maybe an Apollo, some Javs as well. But I don't remember seeing any Guardian tanks or Cryocopters or anything like that. So maybe he'll make it happen on this island map here as the Terror Drone gets the infect, and CXK cannot find a bit of space. He cannot find an easy route into this game. As the Vindicators move forward, they'll find a random Bullfrog, but as he's losing 2 Harvesters to the Harass, it just killing one bullfrog doesn't make much of a difference. Down to one harvester working away at the current moment as the Vindicators swing back around. One of them will get clipped by those bullfrogs. Two of them going down, trading for those froggy frogs. And on top of that, the cryo shot looks useless when it's up against a guy like Harlan. He was just controlling those units. And from the high ground, the Molotov cocktails raining down on the oil derrick. Harlan is not taking the foot off the gas as he drops the satellites on top of the power plant, and Vindicators trading out with these bullfrogs. It's a sorry sight for the current state of things for CKX. This allied player is going to have to pull something out, and it doesn't seem to be happening in this game where he's got one harvester versus 4. One harvester working away as this terror drone is looking for the target. Will get sniped, will get stopped, but these walls never seem to get rebuilt. And the harvester is just going to try and pull off the line. I don't even know what he's doing at this point as he pulls off, and now the twin blades are going to start peppering these power plants with a bit of damage. $5 in the bank, one harvester working away, harassed by a sickle, and this might just be the end of the road for CXK in this series as the GG comes out, and XYZD CXK Geneva will drop down to the lower bracket, and Harlan advances into the round of 16 without dropping a game. And that sends us to Mers Landing for Game 1 of a fresh best of 5. And yeah, maybe I chose these players because I thought the names were funny. But it might also turn out to be a really entertaining series. You don't know, I don't know, we'll find out together. As in the north, we have the Green Empire. This is Zomboid. And in the south, playing the Orange Soviets. Give it up for Ancient City. Look, if there's going to be a zombie outbreak, I'm not sure that an Ancient City is where you want to be. Or maybe it's exactly where you want to be because it's abandoned, and it's ancient, and the bear doesn't get the engineer kill. Ooh, doggy. As that engineer will have another friend waiting for him over here. A second bear. Right now the engineer's at the head of the pack, and that is not what you want if this bear is paying attention. The dojo does get pushed away. The engineer is also on its way over there. Are you kidding me? He gets it! He gets the engineer! Oh no! The zombie engineer has been... And he sold off the dojo already! This is the only dojo that he's got. He's got to slow walk it across the map. Ooh, is he just going to produce another dojo? Is he going to deploy it all the way over here? This is why some Empire players opt for the more expensive but safer option of building an extra dojo and then walking it all the... Oh, he's going fast! Tier 3! Or something! I don't know what he's doing! Into a nanotech mainframe. He doesn't have an oil derrick, but he does have the option of going tier 3, and the terror drone will actually spot this dojo. So if this dojo is supposed to deploy like over here and build a Eureka out of sight and out of mind, it might find itself destroyed before it can do that. But the dojo is not actually being killed by that killer terror drone, and there is also a Tengu to potentially swing in and to help out that dojo to make sure that it survives. Really bizarre game coming out here. Low power mode for Zomboid as well. It's being rectified here as he has got himself another power plant coming up into the mix. Bullfrogs will be able to keep that Tengu out of the sky. There are a couple of bullfrogs roaming around the map, a couple of hammer tanks as well. Is this dojo moving in for some kind of bizarre... He's going to see it, too. This is totally in vision of the Soviet player, so we'll see if he's actually able to respond to this. We do have a tier 2 on the Mecha Bay. This is a lot of cash going out the door, not a lot of units out on the field just yet. And a couple of bears still roaming around. A couple of hammer tanks as well. He gets a crush on an engineer. No, he didn't. It was... And the dojo deployed on the front line and then got blasted. So I truly don't know what the plan is here. This is not some kind of sneaky Eureka. This is a Tier 3 Mecha Bay into the sold-off mainframe. So this is buy time and get Wave Force artillery, I guess. I mean, it could be going for King Oni as well, as the hammer tank will finally go down, and this is a Tier 3 rush. You did not have that on your bingo card. I did not have that on my bingo card, and no, he's not even going Wave Force. He's actually going King Oni. And there's the sell-off of the MCV. You don't need another dojo to build an engineer to capture the oil derrick. You'll do it by selling off your MCV. And this Terror Drone is still just sitting there. He's been sitting there for like 2 minutes in this game, doing nothing and having a good time at it as well. Bear is here. A couple of conscripts are here. This engineer is basically toast, as he doesn't have a lot of friends moving along to escort him. But a couple of King Onis. One King Oni, one Wave Force, one Striker. It's the classic 1-1-1, as the engineer does end up getting killed again. And that oil derrick is just not destined to be a part of this Empire plan. And I have never seen this before, so we'll see how it goes. King Oni gets locked in place. Wave Force artillery has the range to disrupt the Soviet front line. And the Soviet economy is, in theory, stronger than the Empire economy, but not if he ends up losing his refinery and his harvesters to this attack. Strikers go for the transform. Not a lot of anti-air here on the front line, as the Bullfrog did forget to get packed along with this army. King Oni able to blast down a couple of those hammer tanks, and now the Strikers can turn their attention to tearing apart the economy of the Soviet player. Once again, this Terror Drone going to be able to lock down this King Oni and keep it in place, and the Strikers retransform onto the ground and to keep up the attack. Over here is the MCV, safe and out of sight for the current moment, potentially expanding over to that location over there, but Ancient City has $0 in the bank. MiG takes a bunch of damage right from the beginning, as the Terror Drone manages to get the infect on the King Oni, and that will eventually kill off that King Oni. And the hammer tanks are hoping that they have strength in numbers, but they get blasted. 2 of them get shut down, and now finally the King Oni may die, but it's not before another Terror Drone goes down, and this one tank buster chases away an entire column of battle tanks. What is going on? I don't even know. But the Terror Drone gets the kill, infects another Striker, and the hammer tank steals the Wave Force artillery weapon from the Empire. So surely this is the end of the attack, but is it the end of the Empire? Or is he going to manage to bounce back somehow, some way, even stronger, even better, as the Soviet economy continues to somewhat reign supreme? Oil derrick and a refinery missing a harvester do make that a little bit harder. But, you know, could always expand over there. Could always take this extra oil derrick for yourself. Who knows? Oil derrick survives. Chopper VX is back off. And the harvester can get back to work now. What an opening. What a play. Again, you don't see this sort of thing very often. Another King Oni. It almost worked, too. I don't know what the secret sauce is. Maybe getting the oil derrick does allow you to get this build out, you know, 30 seconds faster or something. And then it hits at a time that the Soviet player is just not quite ready for it, and you can use your versatile Empire units to sort of dance around, especially a map like this where it has the ridge. The ridge goes all the way around. Your twin blades, or your bullfrogs, are going to have a much harder time dealing with air units as on this map than on some of the other maps. Refinery up and running. All right. 4 refineries for the Soviet player, plus an oil derrick, versus the 2 refineries of the Empire player. Maybe he's rebuilding his MCV. At this point, anything is possible. Zomboid, he is a dead man walking. What is he going to get this? It's another Wave Force artillery, okay. Okay. I mean, artillery can be a huge advantage. Becomes a bit of a harder advantage to hold on to when you're going up against twin blades, but maybe the strikers will always be perfectly positioned to keep the twin blades away. And of course, twin blades are sort of the answer to just about this whole army. Even if they end up dying, if they trade out their lives for the Wave Force artillery, it takes away the artillery advantage of the Empire player. But the attack will begin with a couple of Terror Drone lockdowns here as one Hammer Tank does end up going down. That's the Hammer Tank with the upgrade, and that's a double shot. It's a double infect, but the Hammer Tank does... Oh, and he actually clears out the Terror Drones as well. We see this so rarely that I forgot that the premature firing of the Wave Force artillery can be used to clear out Terror Drones. One of those little factoids. Basically, every faction has a couple of alternate ways of dealing with terror drones. You can, of course, use the repair drones on the crane or a war factory or an airfield or whatever. But you can also use the Stingrays overcharge, the Dolphin splash damage, or the Wave Force artillery blasting a little bit early to clear out that terror drone. MCV gonna try and unpack a little bit further away. I think it's still in range, and with the strikers closing in, is this actually disaster for the Soviet MCV? Your economy might just end up meaning nothing if the MCV goes down and you can't engage this army. So he loses the expansion and the terror drones get dealt with. Twin Blade's now going to be moving in. Are they just going to try and jump on top of these Wave Force artillery? No, they're not. They're going to try and trade out with the strikers. And the Hammer Tanks get blasted. The Wave Force artillery stand strong, ranking up double vet and single vet, ranking their way towards fully heroic as this Hammer Tank kind of gets left out in the open versus double King Oni on the front line. The slow, steady production of the worst economy for the Empire turns out to be winning the day. The Super Tech Empire wins this skirmish here around the 10-minute mark. Nearly double the economy for the Soviet player, but what doesn't matter if you end up just losing all of your units and not being able to get anything done? The army value may be in favor of the Soviet player, only by about 1.7k, but the army grade is heavily in favor of the Empire player. That's usually that with this sort of thing, that's the conscripts. There's like 20 conscripts running around the map, and that is bringing the army grade down quite a bit because high unit count, low unit value for those conscripts. Bull Rush will be denied there as the Terror Drone locks that King Oni in place momentarily there. Tengu's in the sky, peppering those Twin Blades just a little bit there. He even commits in and he gets the kill. That Tengu is becoming a hero of the people. He's getting 2 low health Twin Blades. He's making a 3rd low health Twin Blade and getting the kill as he might even get a 4th. No, he transforms and he gets the kill on the Terror Drone with his exploding body. 50k total resources gathered for the Soviet versus the 33k of the Empire, but that better army isn't translating to anything. Unfortunately for the Soviet player, he didn't get out a Crusher crane. Would have been great to have a crane on the front line for those repairs. These Twin Blades low on health could have been getting healed up back to full, but he did not expect his MCV to get squashed there on the right side. He thought, oh, the Empire's gonna sit back and relax because he's scared in his base and he's in this like desperate situation. But actually the Empire was able to slowly but surely move forward, move out, and find an angle to crush that front line force. And now these Wave Force artillery have fully ranked up to hero status, and King Onis are not something we normally see in a 1v1. Look, I don't think this build is gonna work versus Harlan, but it's working here versus Ancient City. And maybe the Ancient City needs to upgrade his tech a little bit here. He's getting the infect. So he dropped the satellites, I think, onto this harvester a little while ago, and then he will send the terror drone in for the infect. And the harvester should survive. Maybe he'll just die right on the edge there. And he did. He actually did die. He didn't get to the repairs in time as the twin blades are going to move in. But they're once again, they're trying to trade out with these strikers. And the strikers will happily give their lives to keep the Wave Force artillery alive. The strikers didn't even die. All of the twin blades go down and the strikers survive as the Soviet army falls to pieces and the Soviet player crumbles under the pressure. The Wave Force artillery light up the day and blast Zomboid into a 1-0 lead against Ancient City. Not a lot of maps have a tech airport. Temple Prime Reloaded does, and I feel like we haven't seen it really come into play all that much. Maybe we will here with Zomboid and Ancient City. Refinery coming up for the old Ancient Boy as he is down 0-1 in this series. But I'm really just interested, what is Zomboid gonna do? Is it the same kind of thing? Goofy, wonky build, fast tier 3? Is that even going to work on a map like this? Because if you're used to playing Red Alert 3, then okay, you know every 1v1 map has 1 oil derrick per person and 5 refinery locations per person. Temple Prime Reloaded, they reloaded a lot, and it's like 7 refinery locations per player. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, 7 refinery locations per player. So you've got the high ground here, and then if you want to stretch your legs, you can go out there, or you can go for this double refinery location in the north, and some players do that. They go for their 2 right here, then they go for double refinery up there, and that is a tempting proposition here for any player. Empire gets the oil derrick nice and safe and secure this time. That'll be a little bit of an income boost for Zomboid over his previous game itself, although it didn't end up mattering because he ended up getting the win in the later game anyways, but he had to wait 10 minutes to do it. And so there's a lot of different factors on this map that could change up how a goofy build like a tier 3 rush ends up working and how it ends up working out. We'll see how it goes. Tier 2 on the Mecha Bay. Surely not. Surely it is not the same kind of a thing as the Dojo Core ends up getting eliminated, and this Terror Drone is going to rush down to that Tengu. I think the Terror Drone that killed the Dojo Core... Okay, we're doing it again! We're going again, baby! Who cares what's gonna happen? Because we're going again! Oh, third refinery coming up. Okay. Now comes the, like, theory crafting angle on it. Ooh, is the high ground... Is it abusable here? This is a super reactor and a war factory, very, very close to the high ground. So if we get chopper VXs, maybe they're just going to abuse the high ground. And then the other thought that I have, which is the thought that I was originally kind of making, is this double refinery location better when you're trying to defend against something like this than going for the 3 refinery on the low ground and the 4 refinery on the high ground? He's going straight for the 4 refineries very, very quickly here. It'll be around 4 minutes by the time this refinery finishes up, and it looks like he has a decent amount of cash in the bank, so I think he will be able to afford it. Chopper VX going for the kill on the oil derrick. Molotov cocktails might be thrown from the high ground. It looks like the advanced rocket pod upgrade was just activated, so these Chopper VXs now do a bit more damage. They get the kill, trade out the life Chopper VX for a oil derrick, and this is keeping the pressure on the Soviet side of the map. This is also partially a time-buying tactic for the Empire player. We saw what happened when the Empire player engaged without the proper amount of King Oni and Wave Force artillery at his disposal. This was also an MCV cell kind of a build with no oil derrick. So this is an MCV keep build so far with an oil derrick and sniping your opponent's oil derrick. but your opponent also has 4 refineries under their control. So quite a few differences in between these two games, but this MCV moving to the front line could be a 3rd refinery on the high ground, and then just play this one out nice and slow, which for the current moment will yield big advantages for the Empire. If we play it out nice and slow, then we're going to see that same kind of methodical push with the Wave Force artillery sniping everything that we saw. So how can Ancient City make this game a little bit different? This is not a 3rd base. This is an MCV battering ram ready to knock open the front door. 1 Tengu, 1 VX for the anti-air. So there's not a lot of twin blades here right now. There are 2. They're going to push forward. They're once again going for the strikers. This is not a sacrifice to kill the artillery. The Tengu goes for the transform, but not able to kill the twin blade. Meanwhile, on the other side, the harvester survives this time. The ore collector can get back to work as the terror drone has been dealt with. Tengu is here. The Tengus are pretty easy to replenish, as this is going to be 2 dead twin blades. One of them low on health. The other one doesn't stick around to try to kill off that Wave Force artillery. Full power, ready to go. Wave Force artillery lining up the shot. No, he's not charging up just yet. As another twin blade goes down, the terror drone trying to lock down this King Oni, and the Wave Force artillery is kept around way in the back line, but he's not lining up the shot just yet. He's waiting for the twin blade to kill him off. There we go. It finally happens, as the King Oni takes a big chunk out of this war factory, and the tank busters and the Imperial Warriors are the real consistent damage that this Empire army is putting out. But now with the war factory dead, what do you even do as the Soviet player? You've got these hammer tanks out on the field, but you're just facing twin blade, or you're just facing tank busters and Imperial Warriors. The twin blade trying to get in on the action because the twin blade is unopposed, but there are so many targets to worry about here on the front line. And now the Tengus come in. 2 weak little Tengus from the north swing in and clip the wings of the twin blades. And the hammer tanks can leech the King Oni weapon. The MCV on the front line is just used to sell off, and now he can go for the capture of this super reactor, but it won't happen as the twin blades come in, and surely this one will be different, but the twin blades go down. The Tengu gets the kill, and the flak trooper in the building will keep the Tengu out of the sky. Wave Force artillery, can you line up the shot? What is he going for? The airfield, perhaps, here, as he lands 1 big shot, and the hammer tank will get the kill. The King Oni rushes in and helps get the kill on the airfield. So no more twin blades, no more MiGs. The last 2 MiGs are sniping Tengus, but there's no more production for the Soviet player. He has to rebuild the airfield because his MCV is over here and his war factory is gone. So even though the Empire player has almost nothing left on the front line, and the flak trooper goes heroic as he kills off that King Oni, there's just nothing left for this Soviet player in terms of production. He's going to have to sell off a couple of walls here so this Tengu can be dealt with. Flak troopers inside of the building. It's as good as a battle bunker, or it might as well be. Where are these King Onis coming from? I feel like every time I look, there's another King Oni and it only has 10% HP left. He has to sell off the super reactor, which cancels the airfield, and he's down to nothing. Are you kidding me? Zomboid is making it happen. 2 games in a row. Rush to tier 3. It somehow works out, and Ancient City falls apart again on Temple Prime Reloaded. What are these games? This is madness. You trade a tech airport for a garage. You go from Temple Prime Reloaded to industrial strength. As we are here for game number 3. In the north, will he go 3-4-3? Zomboid is looking to potentially 3-0 this series with 3 very fast tech builds. This is one of those maps that does have sort of pokery oil derricks. Some maps, you know, Infinity Isle, not so pokery. Cabana Republic, not a little bit pokery there. Cabana Republic. Some of these maps not so pokery, but some of these maps more pokery than you would like. No crane for Ancient City, straight into the refinery, and his engineer jumps inside of that civ structure, so he should be safe. And the dojo will eventually go down to the flak trooper, or not. Dojo will just run away. And the bear is going to get sliced and diced by the Imperial Warrior. Even trade, 1-for-1 there, as the dojos will make safe the other location. So it will be a trade of oil derricks, 1 per player. And maybe that's exactly what Zomboid wanted. He was able to get a win 2 games in a row with this goofy... Ooh, that could change things. With this goofy Tier 3 tech build, this fast Wave Force King Oni nonsense, but repairs for the Soviet units. A garage giving free repairs for all Soviet land vehicles could be the ticket to victory. And if we go for the same kind of build, then killing off that garage will be like priority number 1 before the real attack begins. Because obviously you want to knock that down and then make the fight a little bit less fair, which is exactly what you're looking for when you've got the artillery advantage, when you've got the tech advantage. Surely not. Not here. And he's gonna get the... He's actually gonna get that. Alright. So he takes the oil derrick, he takes the garage. And he sells off the dojo as well. Okay. Okay. We don't have tier 2 just yet from Zomboid. It doesn't look like he's going for that same tier 3 build 3 games in a row. He is going tier 2 now. He does not have anything queued up there on the main build queue. He did also get an extra dojo, which deployed down here, and the engineer pops out. Are you kidding me? No way. Barracks coming in. All right, Tsunami Tank is here. A couple of tank busters as well. Might want to get a couple of Imperial Warriors out also, and this is going to be a Tesla coil behind all of that. So we got to check in where that engineer went into. Could be trying to go for that whole super reactor. Tesla coil ends up going down, but the bears are now out, and that's sort of what you want with this barracks location. You want to be able to neutralize those tank busters and make it a little bit harder for the Empire player to react to this. Meanwhile, on the other side of the map, engineer going for the sneaky play in the back door. Has he been noticed? I would say the answer is no so far. He hasn't been noticed. The attention has been taken away as Ancient City hasn't quite realized that there's an engineer trying to sneak in. He's gonna miss it. The timing is too slow. He's too late. He has to sell off. The super reactor goes down. The hammer tank moments away from greatness, and now it's a Tesla coil with no electricity, but he can camp the Tesla trooper on the front of this mecha bay. He can shut it all down. It's up to this. What is he even going to do here? He's going to go for the crush, and then he's going to try and get the Tesla trooper with the harvester. But the flak trooper he tried to transform. You can see the Tengu tried to transform and get over to the side as the Tesla trooper locked it down. Unfortunate for the Tesla trooper, he can't stay alive forever. And now the MCV cell comes in. The barracks will be getting shut down. This attack will be slowing as well. Another super reactor coming up back at home. Refinery had to be sold off to make it happen. And now the Tesla coil is back online, but only for 1 shot, maybe 2. He gets 2 before the Chopper VX finishes him off. And now a fresh Tesla coil can be started in his wake, exactly where the other one was. And it's a mess of a game here as the VX heads for the high ground, tries to break the attention of that bullfrog. And if you can get onto the high ground, then you are hidden from those units. Hammer tank going to be force firing the ground there. Tengus, Chopper VXs splitting out into different locations, and the Soviet player would have loved to have the repairs on his units, on his vehicles, as the satellite drop comes in. It knocks down the barracks. The MCV has already been sold off, so you don't have to worry about another barracks coming out to replace it. And this Tesla coil will surely make the end of all things, but there's nothing back home to defend. Zomboid goes to the other side of the map with a couple of tank busters, a couple of Imperial warriors, and a couple of strikers. He's got a VX, he's got a Tengu, and boom goes the super reactor. The lights go out once again, but one player has an MCV and the other one doesn't. But the refinery is once again having to be sold off. Ancient City sells everything off. He's got no income, no cash, no nothing, as he taps out, and Zomboid goes 3 for 0. 2 of them with his fast tech build. Are you kidding me? Zomboid advances into the round of 16 for the BattleNet qualifier. And that means we're on Infinity Isle once again for round 2. Game number 1. We're still in the round of 32. And on the left side, rocking that Cyan Empire. This is Star. Meanwhile, on the other side, some of you are going to be disappointed. He's playing green, but he's playing Empire. This is Green Alert. Not playing his typical Soviet stuff. He is swapped out for the Empire ways. And we'll see how it works out. He did well in the first round, getting himself 3 quick wins with those mostly Tesla coil pushes. And we'll see, you know, no Tesla coils here. Double Empire mirror to kick off our game number 1. As always, back on Infinity Isle. And once again, this player's name may not be Star, but I tried the old translate, and one option was Star Chestnut, and then one option was Star something else. So I'm going with Star. That's a fine enough name. See, he's got the whole chain ready. This is not something you see very often. This is like, oh my gosh, that's like beta stuff. And by that I mean that takes me back to playing the Red Alert 3 beta in early 2008, I think it was, or like summer 2008, something like that, when this kind of stuff would happen. It's not something you see very often, but yeah, you can trade up 4 or 5 burst drones to knock down a harvester there, and you just attach them one by one, activate that special ability, and it ends up working out. In this case, it is going to be forcing an MCV sell by Green Alert. He is down on economy now, but he did also go for 5 tank busters inside of a sudden transport, so that's a big cash spend, and he will force this harvester off the line. He'll gets the kill, and I don't think he lost a single tank buster there, so that's actually fantastic. But now, can he escape with anything? He's going to try and make it to the building on the high ground, which he doesn't have control over. So the building on the low ground, which he can't take over either. This is just going to have to be a trade out of the units. Get out and get as many shots as you can. Unless he has some way to save this sudden transport, he's just about to die for nothing. And I mean, he's not going to get many shots off versus all of these Tengus anyways, but you might as well get whatever you can when you're in that kind of a scenario. I think he was trying to hope that his 5 Tengus could cross the map, and now we're in a very awkward 0 working harvesters, but an oil derrick versus, I think, 1 working harvester. And okay, the harvester is going to get back to work, and Green Alert sold off his other refinery, so he is truly down to just 1 refinery. He's got the oil derrick as well. He is going for a bit of a harass. He's going to lose this Tengu. It's versus another couple of Tengus on the ground, and now he's going for the big transform. He's going to try and split the damage onto the harvester, onto these Tengus, as he has the lower numbers, he has the lower production. But it's even now, or no, it's just swung back into the Cyan favor as Star gets a couple of kills, and it's 3 Tengus versus 2. He's trapped down on the ground, and it's 4 Tengus versus 1. Things are not going well for Green Alert, as it's 4 Tengus at least versus like the one that he has. Actually, he might just have an Imperial Warrior. He might have 0 Tengus. As he goes tier 2, he goes Tsunami Tank, and he's going to try and rush across the map. He did manage to grab both of the oil derricks, so I did miss that in the flurry of activity. He has 1 refinery plus 2 oil derricks, which is pretty good, but it's not better than 2 refineries, although I don't know how long these 2 refineries have really been active. This harvester has been offline, it seems like, more than he's actually been online harvesting, so might actually be pretty even on the economy front. Grain Alert currently looking pretty good on the eco, but things should even out here. Tsunami Tank might just try and hang out on top of this refinery and get as much damage onto this harvester as he can. Oh, one more shot, he gets it! He knocks down the harvester again, so Grain Alert's economy is going to be staying ahead of Stars, and basically entirely because of these oil derricks. Chopper VX, Striker rather, stomping its way around the map, and Grain Alert, I thought he was dead after a couple of those moments in this game. Tier 2 now up and running for Star as well. There's going to be the transform. The Tengus are going to trade out versus the Chopper VX. He transformed only 2 of the Tengus. He kept 2 in the sky wisely, and Grain Alert able to get some damage done, and he's going to be able to get the kill back on the Chopper, but now the Tengus are going to try and chase down the Striker. Tsunami Tank running point, guarding this Striker for all he's got, and he is going to be able to keep him alive for now. The Tengus swarming over top, 2 of them in the sky, 1 of them on the ground, going to be taking a little bit of damage there, and that War Factory being an anchor, being a point of strength for Grain Alert. The repair plus the production going to be keeping his units healthy, keeping him in this game. Second refinery going to be coming back up online here for Star. If he ever gets this second refinery actually working, then he will be in a pretty good spot. But Grain Alert has been doing a good job of keeping Star's economy down. And with the limited amount of production that both players have been able to utilize, Imperial Warriors going to be getting into that building. But with the limited production that they have utilized, no army has gotten very big. I think 8 on the unit count, with like 3 or 4 of those being Imperial Warriors, is about as good as you can ask for. There just aren't a lot of vehicles to go around for either one of these players. Still trying to pump out what units he can. Strikers here, point defense drones activated. Grain Alert should have those soon, but I believe he went for the rocket pod upgrade instead, so he's going to be delaying those point defense drones by a minute or 2. He got that rocket pods a little while ago. He's trying to keep this oil derrick alive, but I don't know that he really has a plan to rescue it. Getting out the dojo, being able to get out that second production queue could be a huge benefit. We'll see as these tank busters target this oil derrick. He's going to try and run for the building, and then he realizes it's already been busted. And this might be the end of the oil derricks as the harassment comes in on the harvester, switches to gun mode, gets a couple of repairs, and now these 3 tank busters going to try and find an angle to destroy that oil derrick. Finally, one of the oil derricks goes down there in the north. The other oil derrick staying online for now. Grain Alert dancing on the edge of death, playing defense for the last couple of minutes and sitting on that 2 refinery economy. And now Star has dwarfed Grain Alert. He's about to be overtaking him in the total resources gathered, but he's up on the resources per minute column. Point defense drones expiring there. They will be reapplied momentarily, I have to imagine. Transform maybe onto the ground for some repairs and some point defense drones. As it is going to be 5 Tengus versus these forces of Grain Alert. Decent number of tank busters here as well, spread out. Grain Alert would love to have a couple of Tengus of his own to help deal with these infantry forces. There's going to be the transform as the Strikers get a couple of shots off against the Tengus, and the tank busters end up dying, a couple of them to the crush of those tsunami tanks, and the guns are back online, so the nano-deflector's no longer active, and they're going to try to escape out the south side of the island. Maybe they can fly away. Maybe they can get out onto the water to be able to escape that way. But of course, the Tengus have to be dealt with. Tsunami tanks waiting around. Green Alert gonna try and trade out these forces. How much damage can he really get done? Right now, he's just dancing around these tank busters. Tengu managing to get a little bit of damage. Here come more Tengus. I have to imagine they're gonna respond to this chopper in the sky. These choppers, they're in a dangerous position, dancing between the Tengus and the tank busters as they're looking now for their exit onto the north side of the map. Another tsunami tank activating. The nano deflectors will be able to get the kill on at least one of the tank busters. The other one's just dancing in their spidey holes, trying to hide away from the damage of those treads crashing down on them. Full hero mode goes that tank buster. Harvester still working away as the Tengus run for their lives from those choppers, those strikers. And this one hero tank buster, he is trying to work away at this ground army of Green Alert. Not a lot of units left on the field for Green Alert. He's hoping to get that final bit of damage done. He's hoping to knock down one of these harvesters, but he just can't make it happen. These tank busters are doing so much damage, and the tsunami tanks just do not have any way to deal with them. Couple of more shots coming out. The rear armor is massive. Tank busters get that kill. Tsunami tank goes down, and the choppers aren't doing much better. Another tsunami tank shows up, but it feels like the tank busters are going to be able to perform the same magic trick that they were able to kill the last tsunami tank with. They're going to be able to do it again with this one. Striker trying to move into a better position. Tengus, still two of them out. A third one just finished constructing as these tank busters chasing around this army. And with only one refinery, one oil derrick worth of income, Green Alert is not looking good. But he did manage to snipe a harvester of his opponent, so his opponent is also not looking good. Star managed to eclipse the income of Green Alert briefly there. And now he's back in control. Two harvesters working away. That is the better economy of the two. And Green Alert selling his MCV early on means that he has limited options. No more power plants, no more production. He even sold off all of his power plants that he did have, either because they were being attacked or just to get a little bit of an extra cash boost, but it does mean that his production is forever slowed. GG comes out, Star putting the pressure on that oil derrick. He was going to knock down Green Alert's source of income to be even lower, and that will do it. The first loss handed to Green Alert as Star will head into game number 2 with a 1-point advantage. And we're on Battle Base Beta for game number 2. Green Alert is sticking with Empire, but Star has switched it up, playing random and drawing allies. So it is an AVE after our Empire mirror. We have ourselves a bit of a different matchup. It will be airfield quick, but not first, as the barracks did come out first, but airfield before either refinery. So this is a lot of cash out the gate into the airfield, but the oil derrick is here to kind of back things up, provide a little bit of that income. And of course, on the Empire side, you can spend cash very quickly. Empire players pretty much always will hit 0 in the first couple of minutes of the game before anyone else does, just because of how their build queue works. And the dojo moving around the map will be able to set up here at the 3rd refinery location on the high ground. Can potentially get out some walls. We'll see if the Vindicator timing is fast enough. Okay, he can knock down that. He can knock down the dojo before the walls come up. Oh, no, he can't. I don't know if he. I assume he didn't forget to get advanced aeronautics. I think he just had a refueling issue. He went out a little bit too early. And there's nothing wrong with going out a little bit too early, but it does mean that your opponent gets a big fence up on top of your 3rd refinery location. Whoa! The dog? Will the dog spot it? I don't think the dog realizes the docks core came out that early. That is something that you would want to know, that there is a sneaky naval yard being deployed out near the edge of the map. It's not a super hidden docks. If he was going like down into one of the corners really far away, then that would be a hidden docks. Maybe they're trying to go like sneaky shoguns or something. But this is just like a normal hidden docks, where he does go for a naval yard after the mecha bay. Not a very common thing to do, but that is what Green Alert is opting for. And for the current moment, it might end up working out. He also has spotted out this sneaky third refinery location over there on the right side, which can then create a little pocket for bases with the one on the low ground. Star seems to have sussed out this naval yard, because if Star just avoids the water, then Yari mini-subs are going to be useless. And Green Alert only produces one, and then he sells off that naval yard. So he is kind of reading the read, and he will not produce any more. But you've already made the naval yard, so getting out one Yari mini-sub is not the end of the world, and he sells it off immediately. Ore refinery up and running. Third refinery online for both players now, as Green Alert gets scouted and re-scouted by these Apollos. The dog there as well, giving good vision to Star. Double Vindicator, double Apollo on that location. And the Yari mini-sub is keeping an eye on everything. Prospector actually going up to the high ground. I thought he was maybe going tier 2 on the Prospector, but no, he's going up to the high ground. It will be spotted by the Imperial Warrior in the building. So Green Alert playing this one out nice and slow, going tier 2, getting 3 refineries, not running across the map and trying to go absolutely suicidal psycho mode. Happy to play this one out slowly, and his opponent agrees. He says, I'm also happy to play this one out slowly. Star, happy to just let this one slowly build, as there's been small skirmishes and fights on a couple of different spots of the map. The airfield doing most of the heavy lifting for the allied players, for the allied player. But both players just happy to let things happen and slowly build as they gather a little bit more income. They build up bit by bit. Tier 2 and a fresh airfield on the front line. This could be a full base of operations, especially if he deploys a war factory over here as well. And yeah, this is just, now that all of this has transpired, it feels like Star saw the naval yard or read the play perfectly and has seen what is headed his way and has decided to just avoid the water entirely. It makes it wasted cash and wasted time on the Green Alert side. And Green Alert at least cut his losses. He didn't continue trying to make the naval yard work. He didn't try to like tech it up and go for sea wings or anything. He's like, you know what? I think it's better to just cut the losses, focus on the strengths, and that's going to be a couple of more dead Imperial Warriors. Peacekeepers holding the buildings in the middle of the map. Even a Peacekeeper on the outside trying to put a little bit of extra damage and knockback onto those Imperial Warriors. Still no war factory here on the front line from this allied player, so he is just happy to roll with the airfield as that cryocopter gets clobbered, and the Javs jumping into the building and then jumping out for a brief moment. Turret will eventually clear out these walls and make a potential 4th refinery location for Star. Both players happy to just sit on these 3 refineries for a while. Multi-gunner turret not going to be here on the front line, but the point defense drones come in nicely for those Tengus. MCV could move forward to try and put even more pressure on this location. Sometimes we do see that MCV from the allied players in the middle of the map on the high ground there, so they can go for those turret pushes. Tengus here guarding these chopper VXs and allowing them to knock down that oil derrick potentially, although now they're going to be going for the Vindicators, going for the airfield as well, splitting their damage across both targets. And Green Alert, he's going to have some damage to deal with back at home. This Vindicator coming in from the second airfield. Where is the Vindicator? Surely, no, is it? Okay, what is the point of the cryocopter if you don't have a Vindicator to follow it up with? Green Alert now going to be going for the Transform Strikers in the sky, going to be putting out a bit of damage onto these buildings, and with the Vindicators dead, this does cause a bit more of a problem. Star, he's got the cryocopter. Okay, he does have one Vindicator. He is moving around the map. He's going to be able to drop a couple of bombs, get a couple of freezy rays on these strikers, and clean up some of these ground forces from Green Alert. But what is Star doing to defend his main base, to stop these attacks on the other side of the map? This wall of Apollos does kind of stop Green Alert from easily being able to sweep away this attack from the allied player. Imperial Warriors finally clear out that building. The Javs go down, and these Tengus, they're just looking for targets, but they're not finding anything just yet. This one Imperial Warrior is just putting a little tiny bit of damage into that command hub, into that outpost, as he is looking to stop that expansion before it actually happens. The MCV had to run a little bit from those cryocopters, but this is a lot of Apollos, so even with point defense drones, it's going to be a tough fight for the Tengus. I think he has the numbers versus the 6 Apollos, but the micro can make it such a difficult thing to try and do the dance of the Apollos versus the Tengus. The Tengus, I guess if they just lined up in a line and shot each other, maybe the Tengus would win with their point defense drones. But versus the micro of an Apollo player, you can sometimes get out ahead with those engagements. And even if you don't win the engagement, you can avoid losing the engagement and then win the next round of the attack. Apollo's moving back out, looking for the Chopper VX. There's the Transform. Vindicator comes in, manages to get a kill, but he will just kind of trade back that veterancy with the units on the ground, and the Cryocopter can't stick around if those choppers are on the floor stomping around with their rocket pods blasting out anything in the sky. And finally, the Imperial Warrior is dealt with. The refinery back online. The harvesters back working away for the Allied economy. Green Alert has been ahead on the eco front, but that's about to change with 4 refineries under his control. Even with Green Alert's oil derrick, he's not going to be able to stand up to that economy. But Green Alert does have the better army, 16k worth of units, even 17.5k now. And of course, a lot of the 10 grand of army value is tied up in these 6 Apollos, which, depending on what they're attacking, will either be very powerful or completely useless. If everything's on the ground, the Apollos don't matter anything as army value. And now the Tengus are just going to go for the full-on attack. This Yard Mini-Sub, just like on a forever patrol, I guess, running around the water, and the Javs will be able to knock down that building. Point defense drones will fall off as these refineries getting targeted. No real reason to let this main base stand, as the strikers will be able to knock down this ore refinery, and those VXs, they do a lot of damage when they're in that chopper mode. Green Alert, he's now got the advantage that he was looking for. There's the point defense drones, and he kills off 2 of the 4 harvesters. He's already dealt with the oil derrick. He just needs to not lose from this position. He needs to not throw the game from this position, as that Peacekeeper doing a bit of damage here or there. And it is 4 refineries versus 2, as Green Alert takes the low ground water expansion for himself. He's got the oil derrick still working away as well, despite that Peacekeeper's best efforts. And at some point, Green Alert is just going to have to transform all of these Tengus and fight those Apollos. He just wants to make sure that it's in favorable conditions, as he's going to transform everything. The Strikers are going for the MCV. As the MCV packs up, the Tengus are going for the Apollos. The Cryocopters get sliced and diced, and even with the Jabs in the building, the Emperor's Rage is too powerful, and Green Alert strikes back. He will not go quietly out of this series. Star strikes first, but Green Alert evens things up. And as we load into Deep Sea, if you just look at the factions, you'd think you'd know who is who. But you'd be wrong, because in the north, playing the green, playing the Empire, sticking with his Imperial ways, this is Green Alert. Evening things up, making it an even series. And in the south, rocking the blue Soviets, this is Star. No crane opener, no Tesla coil push on the horizon. Refinery. Is it going to be War Factory? No, he's going double refinery. Okay, so he's not even going the, like, aggressive War Factory before second refinery kind of a thing. Harlan obviously made that work very nicely. Bear going to try and dodge and weave around the dojo. Won't be able to make it go, so he will have to go for the scout. And hey, that's not a bad thing. Double dojo at the front door. Plus, is that 2 more dojos roaming around the map? At least 1 more. So 3 dojos right from the beginning. He gets the oil derrick, he gets the engineer. He'll probably be fine. Sometimes Empire players, they go for that 4 dojo opening, and that's $4 or not $4 that's $2 down the drain. And then of course they have to pay an extra $500 for their refineries as well. So that's $5, and that's 7 out of your 10 grand at the beginning right there. And so sometimes Empire players can just zero out that bank account so quickly. Saving the extra dojo does help a bit with that. Unless he did get the extra dojo and I'm just missing it on the map. But it looks like pretty normal opening for both players. Into the super reactor right away. So this is a super fast super reactor. Not super fast. Normal speed super reactor. This is not normal, though. That's a real MCV. That is not actually a sudden transport in surprise. This is an MCV battering ram, ready to go, ready to crush units and knock down the front door. We'll see what he actually decides to do with it. It could just be a very aggressive positioning as like a kind of a signal or like a scare tactic to try and control the middle of the map. And if he had placed it facing the opposite direction or facing up this way, then maybe he would have been going for some kind of like, I'm going to take this third from this location. But with the... Is he going to wall off on the high ground? I have not seen this before. A couple of Sangu's going to be coming in, of course, with the super reactor. Hammer tanks are on the menu. No bullfrogs, though, because this is versus an Empire play, so the bullfrogs are not needed for the current moment. Of course, versus the Tengus, versus the potential chopper VXs, you would like them. Sickle and a hammer tank both going to be going down. Green Alert with a fantastic opening here. If he keeps this pressure up, this could be a real point of difficulty for the Soviet player. It is delaying the third base. Star doesn't have that third refinery. Nicely timed. He's zeroing out his bank account in part because he lost the hammer tank, lost the sickle, and now he cancels the refinery. So now it becomes a very weird situation because Green Alert is on limited economy himself. He's only on those 2 refineries. That is not an infinite amount of income, and he really wants to be on 3 refineries as well. But does he want to stop the pressure to try and get that third refinery up and going? He could also try and sell off the MCV to get a cash boost that way and try and keep up the pressure by not getting the third refinery, but instead by selling that MCV. And no, he will do neither one. So is the attack just going to fizzle? He's reforming the front line. He doesn't have so much of an army value advantage that it's like, oh yeah, just move in there and you'll crush it. But we'll see how it happens. Flak cannon pushing forward, bullfrog rather, pushing forward. And the tank busters, they kind of got left out in the open. The Bears are going to have a heyday here as they slice and dice through those. And now the Imperial Warriors move in to respawn. It's a bear market here as the Bears knock down most of the Imperial Warriors. And then the Chopper VXs move in, but they really need to deal with this Bullfrog. Star going to be able to grab that flak weapon. No, he stopped at the last second. He didn't need it. He had a second Bullfrog coming out, and everything falls apart in a few swift moments there. 10 times the army value for Star. He was 6K versus 600 for a moment there, and everything falls apart for Green Alert in the big engagement. That's the army value swinging so heavily in favor of Star. It will even out in the next minute or so, but that was a huge victory for Star. He's camping out his opponents. No, he's not. And the Terror Drone gets chased away. He almost got the catch on that refinery dojo, on the refinery core. I keep swapping the word core and dojo 2 games in a row. As this Terror Drone is locking down both of these. The micro is too fast for the game to actually display it properly. He was alternating between those 2 units, I think, or he was just not moving those Tengus, and only one of them was locked down. GG comes out. Oh, a big mess of an engagement turns the game upside down as Star puts the 2nd point on the board. Green Alert fighting strong, but taking the L. And we're on match point for Star. He's continuing to represent the motherland as he randomly draws Soviets yet again. And Green Alert has decided to stick with green and stick with Empire. So he is happy to represent the Imperial forces yet again. And we have got ourselves a repositioning MCV here. He's got those refineries coming up. Engineer should be heading over. Uh-oh. A curious case indeed. Okay, there we go. As this bear needs to be dealt with, and the speed boost gets activated. The roar doesn't come out. 2nd Imperial Warrior coming in. 2nd bear as well. The dodge and the weave of this engineer to stay alive as the guns get activated by the harvester, and the timeout on that speed boost allows the engineer to have a breather for just a moment and then get back to work. A dangerous game was played. It almost turned into disaster in the first 90 seconds for Green Alert, but it turns out okay. Nothing really ended up happening there, so it just turned out all right. Triple buildings here for the Soviet player. Lots of buildings in the middle of the map makes it one of the unique features of Epicenter Island. This city in the middle is sort of, I guess, the epicenter of the island in a literal sense, but also just there's tons of buildings here, so it does have some strategic advantages. Maybe a little bit less so for the Empire faction. 3rd refinery, okay, 2 minutes, 3 refineries for Green Alert. And he is predicting a 3rd refinery from his Soviet counterpart. But it is 3rd refinery after super reactor. So we got the tier 2 tech activated for our hammer and sickle boys, which does mean hammer tanks out on the field, bullfrogs, sickles, and ooh. Okay, we're back after the desync fixing tool. We'll see if it actually has fixed the desync. And, you know, maybe yes, maybe no. Ooh, I feel like we are getting past the point where it previously desynchronized. So I think we're actually good. Always frustrating when that ends up happening, but I think Richard RC is the one who made the desync fixing tool. So huge thank you to him or whoever it was on the BattleNet team that ends up making that working. Turns out it was just a web page. You load a web page, it loads the replay, you give it the replay, and then you just click one button, and that is basically it, and hopefully everything works out. And they give you some different options for how to potentially fix the replay, and because it's like detecting potentially duplicate data, but it doesn't know if the data is duplicated correctly or not. So you have to sometimes make a call, which means we could end up having, by fixing one problem, I might have caused another problem later on. We'll find out, though. And I'm just realizing now that I did not fix the score, so I think it's Green Alert 1 and Star 2. There we go. Airfield coming up. We're way past the desync point now. As we see the 4th refinery coming up, this is feeling a bit like Harlan. How Harlan likes to play out some of these games. 4th refinery up, very safe and secure. Green Alert hasn't been able to find any real damage yet. And with that Tesla coil there, you need the VXs to be able to put the pressure on that location. But we are going potentially into King Oni Wave Force Artillery kind of location. This is a lot of walls coming up for our Empire player. Nanotech mainframe has finished. Tier 2 is finished, but not Tier 3. So we do have a little while to wait before the first Wave Force Artillery comes crashing out onto the field. More walls going to be coming up. More bears going to be threatening over at this location. But this is going to be a Soviet economy advantage if we continue to sit in this kind of a place. If we keep this 4 refinery versus the 3 refinery of the Empire. Soviet clearing out these buildings as Star moves forward. He sees all of the walls coming in. This is a Tier 3 dojo. Okay, this is not something that I expected to see from Green Alert. I didn't think we were going to get the Eureka rush around the 6-minute mark, but nothing has actually been started on this Tier 3 dojo. It's just been a bunch of time as we have a couple of strikers onto the front line, and the tank busters go down into their hidey holes looking for the perfect angle to try and step away from that hammer tank. But no, the hammer tank is just not giving them the space as the strikers have to transform. The VXs go onto the ground, and now this hammer tank is going to be saved from, or this dojo is going to be saved from the hammer tank by this Wave Force Artillery. And now the Soviet player knows what the game is. He's looking to get himself a 5th refinery up and running before the Empire player even has his 4th. And he's about to be losing a harvester on the 3rd anyways. King Oni steps out. Wave Force Artillery fires a shot as well. And Eureka is about to get clobbered by these bears. Okay, no. She does not have to activate the Psychokinetic Burst to save herself from the bears. The King Oni takes a hilariously long time to actually kill off these bears. This is a lot of time bought by the Soviet army. 5th refinery now online. 3rd harvester back up and running for the Empire. But if you could ask for more time to prepare for what the Empire is doing, I'm not sure how much more time you would even realistically get, but this is a huge read on the entire playbook of the Empire player. He saw the King Oni coming from a mile away. He could have guessed about the Eureka coming from a mile away. The Wave Force Artillery are online, but they are spending their time on the Empire side of the map. So you can't blame surprise for this one. The Soviet player has a ton of time to prepare. It's all about how he handles this engagement. Green Alert looking to put his next point on the board, take us to an ace match, take us to a game number 5, and keep his tournament hopes alive here in the upper bracket for the BattleNet qualifier. And he does have to do it with this build. He has opted for low eco, high damage output. He's built a lot of walls. He's built not much else in terms of defenses, and the juggling is going to have to be amazing. Not a lot of Imperial Warriors are here to frontline for this Eureka. There's a decent number of bears. There's a Terror Drone. There are Twin Blades that could potentially swoop in as they're coming in from the south. Eureka going to be backing off from the front line. Terror Drone comes in. Wave Force Artillery onto the front line for the crush, and Eureka blasts those bears, but there's not much for the follow-up as Eureka gets clobbered. There's too many bears. There's not enough Imperial Warriors. And now the King Oni stands alone. The Wave Force gun has already been grabbed by one of the hammer tanks, and the attack falls apart in the face of the superior Soviet economy, the superior Soviet army, as it's a big swing towards the orange direction, and now things are looking all in favor of that Empire, of that Soviet army. The Empire is winning the army grade, but that's partially because of these striker VXs. Those VXs hunting for a target there as the MiGs manage to escape for the most part. Couple of Tengus are here. Point defense drones not on the Tengus. They're on the VXs down on the ground. And after that disaster of an attack, I guess you just try again. Maybe the VXs will find a better way to engage with this army. Maybe the Tengus will be able to clear out the skies, and it'll make it that much easier. These MiGs could fight these Tengus instead of just dying. They're finally going to turn around, and they will trade out for a couple of these Tengus out over the water and buy some time for a Bullfrog to show up and for the Twin Blades to escape. Massive line of bears over there in the north. Not something that you see very often, is a line of bears ready to go in case Yuriko shows up again. VXs traversing over top of the city. We'll get some good vision for the Empire player. We'll be able to jump on top of this Bullfrog as well, knock that down before it can do anything else, clear out a couple of these buildings, and Yuriko blasts away these bears, but she finds herself in a juggling situation, and she is successfully able to juggle those bears. This Yuriko joined the circus, and she knows how to toss the old bear around once in a while. As the Twin Blades come in, it's a lot harder to toss away the Twin Blades. As the Strikers transform, the VXs provide a safe haven for Yuriko against these scary Twin Blades and these nasty Tengus, or these nasty MiGs. As the hammer tanks move forward, the juggling is going to have to continue as they fire their shots, and the magnetic satellite gets activated. The Tengus get sucked up, and Yuriko goes down as the Twin Blades come in. The Tengus in the sky trying to chase away the air units of the Soviet. MiGs moving forward. Strikers on the ground. MiGs clear the skies as the Tengus find their target. They clip the wings of the MiGs. Two of them go down, but the Tengus can't engage, for the 6 Bullfrogs on the ground would slice them to pieces. Twin Blades moving forward. This is going to be another dead Harvester. That guy has already been bullied into the ground once before, and the oil derrick is the next target as Green Alert just has nothing left on the ground. The army is overwhelming from the Soviets. The fast tech didn't pay off. The MCV is still around. He didn't even sell it off to try and get a couple of extra dollars for his army, and that will do it as Green Alert drops down from the upper bracket down to the lower bracket as Star gets the win 3-1 against Green Alert. And our next best of 5 will start here on Epicenter Island between the blue Random Empire Neo-Tuno and the green Soviets on the right side. This is Psych. We've got ourselves another Soviet versus Empire matchup, which has been surprisingly common. There have been a couple of players like Neo-Tuno who was playing random, and so we could have ended up in a Soviet mirror or a Soviet versus Allies, but we end up in a Soviet versus Empire matchup. And, ooh, is this ore collector bugged, or was he just... Oh, no. Uh-oh. That looks like a bugged collector. Looks like it's only adding maybe a second to the route. Sometimes that's caused by walls. Sometimes the only way to get rid of it is to sell off the refinery and rebuild it. But that is very unfortunate. Crusher Crane will be coming up after that. Sentry Gun as well. So he is going full defense mode. Psych does assume that there are going to be some Tengus heading his way, harassing his harvesters, and he's got long walls up on one side and then an open side on the other that is covered by that sentry gun. So that is the play. It is basically full defense mode here for our Soviet player, and we'll see how the Empire wants to play it. Is it going to be full offense with this little cluster of buildings here in the south? The MCV repositioned into this new location. Super Reactor will be the follow-up. MCV not going to be knocked down or anything. Flak Trooper will trade his life for the first Tengu, so a nice easy start to the fight for now. Imperial Warrior rushing forward. Bears will knock down that Imperial Warrior, and the Tengu's looking for a safe place to land. MCV goes up to the high ground, but of course there is already a dojo there, and now it is going to be into the War Factory. So this is, I didn't even realize that this was such a delayed War Factory. He gets out the Super Reactor, he gets out the Crusher Crane, and the War Factory after that. And for at the current moment, the Crusher Crane is just here for repairs. War Factory finishes up, and okay, we are finally at sort of parity here, as both players now have tier 2, as both players have their War Factories up and running, and the nice roar by the bear will allow him to very easily deal with those 2 Imperial Warriors. Sickle, Terror Drone, Hammer Tank, all on the menu here. Even a Bullfrog potentially coming out for our Soviet player, as Psych will try to push away this expansion and open up his own refinery location that's currently being blocked. Third refinery, not onto the high ground, or is it onto the high ground? It didn't have space to go out the other side. There wasn't a gap there, I guess, between the power plant and the MCV. Dojo will go down, and third refinery is going to be coming up. Very similar timing between these two players. I think it should, depending on when these walls actually end up going down. Imperial Warriors getting crushed eventually. Will get a couple of kills with that sword slicing through the conscripts. Refineries coming out. Walls not being cleared up because there's a chopper. There's a VX on the scene. Could potentially hide out over here and try and dodge in to kill off that oil derrick. Sometimes you see that. Trying to play around the terrain. Get the advantage that way, as the second VX will head down to the south. Tengu VX, it's an amazing combo for a reason. Could also be some tsunami tanks mixed in eventually, but the third refinery coming up quite a bit sooner now for our Empire player than it was for the Soviet, and the first VX going down as the airfield has finished up. The MiGs out on the hunt, and the other VX going to have to run for the hills, or it's already been cleaned up. Nice income advantage there for the Empire player. Not huge just yet, but it is in his favor regardless. And with this third refinery online, it's more in favor until, of course, this third refinery comes up for the Soviets. Bit of a cash infusion. Maybe he just sold something up. I'm not sure why the Empire player. I feel like he was suddenly floating basically 2K, and previously he wasn't. But a very slow start from these two. As some of these other games have been very quick, action-packed, pedal to the metal kind of stuff, even with that last series with Zomboid going for those tier 3 plays. It always felt like there was something going on. Striker going to transform. The VX is going to be able to get a couple of shots onto those MiGs, and the MiGs will escape. But this is definitely a different sort of pace of game from what we've been seeing. Even some of those games with Harlan have been very fast-paced, very aggressive. And then even the ones where he was going a little bit slower, was playing his more macro style, were still quite active overall. Point defense drones on these units. Power plant coming out. Tier 3 could potentially be coming up. Another power plant as well. So I'm not sure what he's planning on building in addition. Might be going for one of these naval expansions and wants an extra power plant to be able to deal with that. Bullfrogs and MiGs should be able to clean out at least some of these Tengus. There's a couple of the Tengus going down, traded back. Might even get a Chopper VX or two. Has to work through the point defense drones first, and the Strikers transform. VXs get a kill, and another Tengu goes down. Bullfrog versus VX. That's a fight for no one, as they're both on the ground, so they can both do nothing to each other. That's a very interesting location. I think the Tesla coil will be able to shoot up, but I think it'll appear kind of invisible, because I think the lightning will just travel through the ground to hit that ore refinery, which is not something you see very often. But we'll see if Psych can make this happen. What even is this build? He gets himself the water refinery. He gets himself the high ground refinery. And is it going to be satellites as well? It is. It's the satellite drop coming in. And now the Tesla coil can target, I guess, nothing, as it opens up this location for the attack, and a fresh 7 hammer tanks will roll up to this spot, and it's low power mode for the Soviet as he packs up his MCV and he heads for clearer ground. And now this Tesla coil is basically going to be useless because the refinery and the harvester are no longer here. So what is this Tesla coil even going to attack? He's back online. There he goes. He gets the Imperial Warrior through the ground. Oh, the goofiness of the game engine. And that's a tier 3. That's a Eureka. Okay, we're going tier 3 and we're going Eureka. The juggling is going to have to be amazing. The twin blades aren't really here. The juggling is not particularly amazing as the Tengus come through, and the MiGs deal with the Tengus and the hammer tanks deal with Eureka. She was not a part of the circus, and she falls to pieces as Neo2no taps out, and Psych gets the first win of the series. And that takes us to Deep Sea for game number 2. Neo2no still playing random, still drawing Empire. We'll see if it ends up being a better run of it versus the Soviets' power of Psych. We'll see if he ends up going for that late Tesla coil push. It did end up working out. Eureka not able to get the win. Bear is going to come in to help deal with these Imperial Warriors. And the first Imperial Warrior didn't even get the neutralizing kill on that Bear. That engineer ran right past the oil derrick and almost ran into the paws of danger, but will turn around and find safety in that oil derrick. That engineer also looked like he ran past the oil derrick as well. Both engineers just passing by the oil derrick that they're supposed to be at. And is he base crawling to the 3rd refinery location? A lot of the time you don't even bother because it is a short walk for the MCV. But with this refinery location, it does kind of look like he is base crawling to that spot. The additional dojo deploys and will not be able to get the same kind of wall setup that he was able to on that first game. There we go. One wall segment finishes up, and the Molotov cocktails will come out to deal with that. A little bit of a delay on anything, but not much to write home about. One single wall segment is not the end of the world. And this is no super reactor. This is a full base crawl with only reactors to get that 3rd refinery up as soon as possible for Psych. Should be able to deploy it very soon, and that is going to be like a sub 3 minute, unless he runs out of cash. It'll be a sub 3 minute 3rd refinery, and he can even sell off that reactor once his super reactor is up and running. Sickle is going to be a little bit late to the party as the Tengu harass has started. Neo2no getting a little bit aggressive here in game number 2 for the first couple minutes, and the first Sickle will go down. Super reactor now going to be started, and of course with this, the refinery got canceled. So he cancels the refinery. He is worried about these Tengus, and he does not have the tools to deal with them for the current moment. Gets a flak trooper inside of the building, but the Tengus are staying out of range of that flak trooper. So for the current moment, this build towards the 3rd refinery has netted nothing for the Soviet player, and that's just a bullfrog that got sent to the other side of the map, sacrificed for the scout, or sacrificed for the accidental scout, as it may end up being. And there we go. It's going to be a dead harvester. He's driving as slowly as he can towards that building, and did he end up killing the flak trooper? I'm not seeing the flak explosions, so the flak trooper ended up going down, and it's cooked. We're done and dusted as Neo2no gets a win, evens the score, and makes this a series. I'm beginning to wonder about how random this guy really is. 3 games in a row, Neo2no ends up as Empire versus the green of Psych. Not what I was expecting to see is triple Empire games randomly right in a row like that. But, you know, anything is possible. I guess it's also possible that, like, the icon could be bugged and maybe he's not actually playing random, but I think he's playing random and he just happens to get Empire. You got a 33% chance every time, so it's not like the game is keeping track and saying you got Empire twice in a row, so you're not going to get it a third time. Refinery first, then War Factory. This time, Psych learning his lessons from the previous game. Does not want to get caught in the greedy mode. Does not want to get caught greeding for that third refinery too quickly and losing out on the game. War Factory is up, Sickle is out, third refinery on the way, and with the oil derrick captured, the barracks will be sold off as well. It feels like Psych is kind of fixing some of those early game problems that arose in game number 2. Deep Sea was such a slam dunk for the Empire player, much like that burst drone slam dunking that Sickle. But game 2 was such a slam dunk for the Empire player that you gotta play a little bit less risky. You do not want those Tengus coming out and just immediately bopping you to end the game again. Dojo going to deploy. We'll be able to set up a couple of walls here. I don't think there's any flak troopers or anything. There's like 7 conscripts running around the map, but there's not that many flak troopers, if any, available to burst down that dojo quickly. It will be a pretty quick super reactor, but also with the timing of everything, it is pretty just normal coming out. Could be a hammer tank as the follow-up as well, and the MCV will head down to the low ground. Triple Tengu, no bullfrogs to knock them out of the sky, so it will be this hammer tank having to decide where he wants to defend. Go for the barracks at the front door, which is pumping out Imperial warriors and trying to shut down this conscript line. Walls do get up, but it won't be enough to stop the Molotov cocktails from finding their target. Bear coming in as well. 5 Tengus in total on the Soviet side of the map. First one does drop down, and the hammer tank has to drive all the way across town to get over to where that Tengu is harassing. And then the other Tengus, they're like, all right, now that you're gone, we're going to head over here, and we're going to cause this harvester to get off the line as well. No bullfrogs here means that those Tengus can escape nicely, and this is a great opening for the Empire player, keeping the Soviet guy on his side of the map, blocking the third refinery location, keeping the harvesters from coming online too quickly. And this guy is still offline. This harvester can be harassed by that Tengu, and these hammer tanks are just running around trying to deal with the angle, deal with the attacks, and that harvester has not actually activated his armor. Okay, there it finally comes online, but he's already in that low damage mode, and that's 3 more Tengus going to transform on top of this ore collector. It might just be a dead ore collector traded one way or the other, as the honorable discharge is not actually utilized to kill off that harvester, and the Tengus go into slow mode for just a moment, but there is finally a bullfrog here to clip the wings of the Tengu as he flips into the sky. He will actually be able to escape. 3 Tengus end up going down, but it does slow down the Soviet economy by a while, as the third refinery is already up and running for the Empire. 3 refineries to the 1 working on the other side of the map. The economic advantage has been secured, but it's about to level off, as the third refinery can be started momentarily here by the Soviets. The harass is back to cause more problems for Psych, as Neo Tuno feels like he's doing a great job of keeping the pressure on the other side of the map. Now with the third refinery coming up, Psych is drawing a 0 on his bank account, and with the Tengus and the VX harass, at least potential, nothing was happening for a moment there, but with the Tengu and the VX harass potential, there are a lot of angles that you have to cover to try and defend your base. Tsunami tanks rolling forward onto the front line, going to chase away this Soviet army, and they just say, all right, we're out. We are heading back home. Oil derrick will go down, and the economic advantage will continue here for Neotuno. As the third refinery comes up, he loses that other source of income, and okay, you know, you do what you can. Can't defend that location. It's going to be maybe just a slow bleed unless the Soviet player can find a good, clear advantage. An engagement that goes heavily in his favor. Like this, if he's able to get some lockdown, the stasis of the terror drone, if he's able to lock down a couple of these units. No leech beam hammer tank success just yet. And this hammer tank is heading way out forward, a little bit too far, as I think he got misrallied there. Right now, it is just a better army for the Empire. Imperial Warrior moving forward. We'll potentially get a couple of shots on that terror drone. Maybe he's able to find it. Satellites getting called in. Pure defensive move here as this VX finds an angle. Might be able to find a hammer tank as it crashes down onto nothing. Nearly finds some damage there, but ends up finding nothing as the Empire army just walks around to the other entrance. Is he actually going to commit up the hill for the attack? No. The answer is no. He backs off, and he will look for another fight another day. Soviet MCV way out here in the middle of the map. Fortunately, he's not versus allies, so there's no like shrink ray that's going to come in and just zap that MCV. Turn it small. Terror drone once again going to try and find an angle. This is a lot of hammer tanks moving forward. Tsunami tanks going to be forming the front line here. No Tengus, no VXs mixed in with this army. It's pure Tsunami. A couple of Imperial Warriors, a couple of tank busters are there. All of the Tengus are on the north side. 8 or 9 of them perhaps flying around looking for the angle. The MCV, now a battering ram, rushing forward, will trap 1 tsunami, 2 tsunamis. The destruction derby has been activated as the hammer tanks deal with the rest of the tsunamis, and it's up to the Tengus to find some damage on the other side of the map, but I think they're still in the sky flying around, and now they're going to look for the harass on the harvesters. The tsunamis have all fallen apart. The army of our Empire player gets chunked out there as that big rise upwards is all of those tsunami tanks exploding as a couple of hammers do find the kills, but the bullfrogs not able to get in close with those Tengus as they escape, and the economic advantage will continue as this Empire player hasn't won the fight on the front line. He's won the fight for the bank account, and that's worked out so far. But will it work out if he keeps fighting? Because if he just throws all of his economic advantage away in terrible engagements, then it just won't matter. Bullfrog can get jumped on. Point defense drones not even needed when you've got this kind of a numbers advantage. Where are the additional Bullfrogs? There's nothing. The build queue hadn't even started. He was truly caught unawares. No additional Bullfrogs, no reinforcements coming in, and it turns out you can lose the first fight if you win the second one. The storm is gathering. The rain is falling. Quite literally, it is storming outside as I cast these qualifier replays from Gathering Storm from the BattleNet qualifier, and we're here on Chrysabarrel Garden for game number 4 between Psych and Neotuno, who is once again playing random, once again drawing Empire. And now it does look a little bit bizarre that it's 4 games in a row random with Empire. And whereas some of the other folks got perfect distributions of factions, 1 faction per game, nicely done there, but nope. In this case, it is going to be 4 games of Empire and maybe 5. If we go for all 5 games, we could go for all 5 games of random Empire, and then someone in the comments can tell us what the stats are on that. I guess it's just 1 out of 3 every time. So, but I never remember how it works. Is it 1 out of 15? Or is it like 1 out of a lot more than that? to get the same faction out of 3 choices every time. I think it's 1 out of 15. I don't know. Engineer moving out. Sickle is here. Might be able to just jump on top of the engineer and get a nice kill, nice and early. I don't know what this engineer was hoping to accomplish, but he didn't accomplish anything as he falls to the ground, and that Sickle is feeling fantastic. Can go for a little bit of harassment after that. Put a little bit of damage onto these ore collectors. Second Sickle so showing up as well. And the Tengu is here to defend this. Shouldn't lose anything with the Tengu with the repair. Burst Drone can even be activated to get a guaranteed kill. Oh, nicely timed there as the Sickles jump away and deny the Burst Drone any ability to do anything, as the Burst Drone is now just wasted cash and 2 Sickles going down, but a little bit of lost mining time. That's the only real advantage that the Soviet player finds with these tricks of the trade, the jumps in and out. 3 Sickles? This feels like it is not worth it. The first Sickle, okay. And if the second Sickle can escape, then it's definitely a good thing. But the lost mining time isn't that much. And that's 2 dead Sickles, a third very, very low on health. And unless you have a Crusher Crane, you're not going to be able to do anything to heal it up. So these three Sickles, they did not get their value worth. They did not get their they did not pay for themselves, as it were. That was a curious choice. Started out fine, ended up a little bit less fine as Neotuno moves out now with a nice healthy Tengu count across the middle of the map. Going to be taking a couple of shots from the Flak Trooper, not inside of the building though, so he's just out in the open. He's exposed and perhaps afraid. As, you know, you gotta work with what you can, and when you're a flak trooper, you often don't get a lot to work with. Tengu's going for the harass, kind of. Going to be causing the Soviet player to lose a little bit of mining time. We'll see how many Tengus he ends up trading for that. Third refinery now up for the Empire player, now deployed, I should say. It's not quite up just yet. It's 3 refineries for the Soviet player, but only 2 of them are actually working. But he does have the oil derrick at least in his advantage. And now the armor can be redacted. Retreated? Get out of there. There we go. The armor can now disappear. Just unfolds into nothingness. As the conscripts once again trying to break this building, we'll find a couple of Imperial warriors difficult to deal with, as like 5 conscripts end up going down, and the Tesla coil gets deployed onto the front line. No VXs here just yet to deal with this, but a couple of tank busters will be able to start bursting it down, and he's going to decide, okay, all right, I need a little bit more space, I need a little bit more defense for that. 2 bullfrogs on the front line as well, so this could actually turn into a very powerful Soviet push. We'll see what the Tengus are able to do to disrupt it. Sometimes they just, he cancels the second Tesla coil. So this attack, this angle has been completely broken, as these tank busters are going to be able to get some free damage onto the Soviet MCV. And the Tengu's going for some more harass. Should be able to shut down both of these harvesters, get them offline momentarily at least, as the MCV will now redeploy in a more defensible location. But he has given just all of this location, all of this position to the Empire player, and now he's going to lose his oil derrick for it. Hammer tanks now going for the harass. This can actually earn a bit of value here, as the hammer tanks knock down these harvesters, and that is a fantastic start to this attack. And the Tengu's not finding much harassment on the other side of the map. And the tsunami tanks, though, they can get the repairs from that war factory right there. They can also utilize their exploding bodies to, he doesn't stick around to get the kill on either one of those tsunami tanks. So these hammer tanks could have potentially gotten 2 more kills for their trouble, but they weren't able to do it. So they get the 2 harvesters, one of which is already back online, but then they don't get any of the tsunami tanks. And those 2 hammer tanks, if they had gotten the tsunami tanks, the value proposition would have been massive, as he would have gotten so much value for those hammers. But as it stands, they only got a little bit of value. At least the harvesters are more expensive, and you can have the lost mining time as well. Not sure if the satellite drop on the random building is worth it. I feel like breaking this power plant would be more effective, or trying to use it to hit units would be the most effective, because if you actually hit them, that'll give you the most value. Conscript's now going to be throwing their Molotov cocktails, but they all get flattened by the tsunami tanks, and the first hammer tank goes down there on the high ground as the MCV tries to turn this into a destruction derby, but he won't be able to find a close enough angle onto those tsunami tanks as the tank busters slice and dice that hammer tank. Neo2no, he's had a bit of an advantage in the engagements for a couple of these fights, but can he keep it going? Bullfrog's going to be getting cut down, and the Tengus now can transform down onto the ground. They weren't even needed because in the sky they gained nothing. No VXs here, so the Bullfrogs are truly useless. They're just dead weight in this army, and there were 3 or 4 of them, but now there's 1 of them. They're just free rank ups for this Empire army, which is bashing down the front door. And with the bears coming out, they get clobbered by the Tengus, so they're not able to knock down those tank busters. And one hero tsunami, no, not a hero tsunami, it was a hero tank buster there, will be hiding under the ground, and the Bullfrog will finally have something to shoot at. No point defense drones on these choppers, so one of them might go down. No, neither of them go down. The VX is once again here to save the day as they're going to chase down these hammer tanks, and even with the flak trooper coming in, his first shot doesn't land on the correct VX, so he gets an extra couple of shots on those units. He gets an extra couple of moments of attacking to do, and I think this ore collector will die before it gets downstairs to the war factory, so the Soviet units will, or the Empire units will sacrifice that harvester for the kill on the terror drone. Tank buster is here, could potentially pop out and try and run away or kill off that barracks. For the current moment, he's just providing a little bit of vision for the Empire army as it moves into position. That tank buster happy to absorb a couple of shots here. Flak cannons not needed, or they're going to be needed in bigger numbers as these Tengus do absorb a couple of shots from those Bullfrogs, and the Chopper VXs are happy for that trade as they will blast open these hammer tanks, and the anti-air just is not there as Psych falls apart once again to the VXs. These guys are too much for this Soviet player to deal with, and now a couple of games in a row it was going fine until the VXs showed up, and now it's GG as Psych falls apart and Neo2no gets the 3 wins he needs to advance into the round of 16. And that will do it for the round of 32. We have more games coming. Thank you all very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. And this is Cyber signing out.